you know the joys of skipping. Some days you just cost your team a game.
Curling now enters the Sports Weekend spotlight.
It seems like a must-win at 1-3. What needs to change? You were tied 4-4 in the 8th. How many games do you win with Hammer in that position and it unraveled?
I think for Jennifer Jones, as she said in her post media, it was just a bad 0 on hers in the 8th end. They were in a great position. Mike talked about maybe they should have hit that open one on Caitlin's last, and then Switzerland doesn't guard, but regardless, they need to park this. Uncharacteristic miss. Sucks to have a 0 against a good team, and in a tight game like that, it's ball game, right? But they played well in the first half. We saw great play from Jocelyn. She was connecting on all those run backs and really putting the team in a good position. Switzerland played great as well. So you take the positives from that and you move forward with it, because I would say that it's getting better, and it's just a matter of closing it out now. So whatever happened there with Jen, if it was a mental lapse or missed pre-shot, or she wasn't quite buying into it, I'm sure she would have debriefed that with the team, and they'll make sure that moving forward they'll find that intensity, and I like their chances against ROC.
And Joe, it might not be like this. It might be like we're like,
it doesn't have to be. Perfect.
It doesn't.
It's
like your son's snakes and ladder game, isn't it? Sometimes you climb that ladder and then you slip all the way back down with a hard loss. Mike, what are you thinking this morning? Deep thoughts?
Yeah, I think the same thing with Joanne was saying. They did all the hard work to get tied with the Hammer playing 8, and Colleen, you know the joys of skipping. Some days you just cost your team a game, and that's what happened with Jen. 2 shots in 8, and all of a sudden they're down 2. Like, all that momentum, all that hard work kind of got put away with 1 shot or 2 shots, really. But I think sports psychologists say you did a great job all the way through, right up until the last shot in 8, and they just need to close the door. I mean, it was a must-win philosophically yesterday. It's a must-win mathematically today, and we've seen Jennifer Jones win Scotties where she had to reel off 6 or 7 or 8 wins in a row. So this is kind of she can draw on that. I don't think she's going to get too flustered. The moment won't overwhelm her, is what I'm trying to say. She'll be able to stick to the process and kind of work their way through. But they've got to still run a bit of a gauntlet. They got ROC, who's due. You've got Eve Muirhead again this evening, Beijing time. So it's a full day. And but the good news is, as you pointed out, it's in their own hands. They don't need any help from anyone else. And I like the way they played yesterday. As I said, Jocelyn was great. Caitlin held their own. Funny, Jocelyn, she curled 93 and Esther curled 97. It's hard. That's the type of level of play we're talking about here in the women's field. So it's just tough. But I thought they did a great job yesterday. And as a skip, I feel for Jen. It's one of those games I'm almost over 1998. It's 25 years ago. So it's one of those things as a skip you just remember, right? But Jen's good. She's played enough times in big games that she'll be able to as Joe said, just park it and move on.
Bruce, you always have sage advice and wisdom for us. What do you have for us tonight?
Wow, no pressure whatsoever. I will say this entire schedule is tough, but Jennifer Jones has gone through the toughest part of a tough schedule. She started off with the 3 medalists from 4 years ago, and then she played Switzerland, the 2-time world champs consecutively. So if there is an easy part of the schedule, easy is the wrong word. It is easier. It is coming up, and her chance to run the gauntlet now, I think, is strong. And Devin, regarding the attire, you look like you're ready to chase Bengals or Rams tonight on some sort of Super Bowl shirt, my friend. Very nicely done.
What about my operator look, Bruce? What about me as the operator?
Colleen, you and I are old enough to remember Jim Crochet.
I was saying, Bruce, you and I are on the same page. It's kind of trippy because I was telling the youngins, producer Soph and Devin, about Jim Crochet.
Bad Leroy Brown. Yeah.
Oh, that was he was great, wasn't he? Okay, let's move on. I talked to John Schuster in the mix zone yesterday, and he was very much saying, Mike, what you said. One of you said that he's through the tough part of the schedule. He played all the ringleaders right off the top, so he is not afraid of his 3 losses. So he kind of is just kind of going about his business. But
that was John Schuster said that.
Yeah, Schuster said that yesterday. Just that he knew his rough stuff was on. Canada versus Italy, And when I talked to Kakushu, I said, well, you remember 2006.
True.
I like to bring up the past, 1998, 2006. When you're as old as us, Mike, we got a lot of stuff.
Seems like yesterday, yeah.
But what about Italy and Canada, Dan?
Well, we got the first win yesterday, so that will bode well for them. But I think Team Gushu's looking very, very strong. But don't take Italy too lightly. We were joking in the booth the last couple of days. Where's that Team Italy you're talking about? They hadn't won a game yet, but they finally did, and they look pretty good doing so. And they will be highly motivated to beat Canada because they still mathematically are in it as well. If they can get to 5-4, they probably feel they have a chance. But I'd like to see Team Gushu just kind of they did all the right things yesterday. They kind of got out to a nice strong start. Got a little help from Schuster in the second end, but for the most part, they were just themselves. They played well, and I look for them to continue.
Okay, so some quick last thoughts, guys, because we have a jam-packed show today, and you guys, I think you have 9 hours of curling coverage ahead. So some last quick thoughts. Bruce, this game against ROC, and then, of course, the Italian game. What should we watch for early in the game on the heels of the 8th and 9th sort of collapse yesterday? For
consistency. Let's just look for some consistency, good play up the middle. And Jennifer Jones is going to be calm and take her deep breaths and figure this out. With regards to Gushu, I really liked yesterday. They got back to they're never light on the ice, but when they're really good, they talk a lot and they're just analyzing everything, and they love the analytics and the numbers. They were back to that yesterday, so they seem strong too. So it's going to be this 9 hours is just going to fly by. It's going to be great.
Right. So,
I heard a rumor that they're touching up the rocks. Colleen, are you on that?
I wanted to break that news when you guys were gone, but let me give you the breaking news. No, I'm only kidding. Yeah,
I might have to tweet that now.
I had a great conversation with Hans, and the rocks have been touched, so that'll be a little bit of an experience for these first off the ground curlers this morning.
Colleen, can I ask you something? When they do that, does that render totally moot all of the rock work the teams have done up until this point?
No, and I think they finally have it down to a fine science. I'll tell you, in the olden days when they would touch up the rocks, you didn't know what you were going to get. But you will see more curl. I don't know that on the hits you're going to see it. This ice is straight on hits, and I think when I watched them touch up the rocks the first time, it was a real gentle, like that. So it's not going to be right like the olden days.
These are all very technical terms. By the way.
I'm curious about what the ice is going to be like with the rocks being touched up. I'm curious about with all the snow if we're going to see some frost. The front ender in me right now is like, what are we going to get this game? Team Jones, Team Gushu, they know what they need to do. They're going to have to catch on if it's different, and I'm looking forward to the games.
Great stuff, guys. We're going south of the border to talk to Tyler George. So that's coming up right next. You guys,
the humidifiers are off, by the way. Weather report. It's clear, but melting.
We had a side bet with Tyler George, the Canada-U.S. game. There are a bunch of people were doing side bets across the border to raise money for the House of Heart. So that Canada-U.S. game, there was viewing parties all around U.S. and Canada. So I got $20 out of his, or $40 out of his brother-in-law. So tell him to make sure he pays up.
He's listening. We're going to go right to that.
I didn't get it. The House of Hearts got it.